Okay, welcome everybody to another 7 Cents podcast. It's now 1:54 a.m. on the 9th of February in the year 2020. And that's 9 and 2, which is the 11, and the 1 and the 1, which are the mirror opposites of each other. So a prime number that is mirroring and facing itself. And that's very, very applicable to what the podcast is about today and the guest that we'll hopefully be featuring a little bit later on in the show. And that is facing the delusion from a non-attached perspective in the now. But before we get to that, and before we welcome Riki, let's talk a bit about some housekeeping. So for a little while now, I have to say that Podbean, which is the server of our content, has been rather difficult to deal with. And so we are going to be moving our service to a brand new broadcast platform called Magazine Radio. So I'm urging everybody to go to the very head of the podcast while the messages come in, and there are links there to Magazine Radio, and there's also links to Magazine Today. So we will have a fully integrated daily blog as well as a broadcast radio station where we will be housing all of our podcasts, all of our live stream, and a whole bunch of additional content, what we call premium services at this destination, which will provide a much more simple and turnkey operation for all. So that's magazineradio.com, where you can click on schedule, and already there are a number of different types of shows that are being on offer, including meta language television and looking at certain film review shows, as well as deep spirituality. There'll also be discussions on the David Lynch universe and Twin Peaks, with various contributions from other podcasters and people associated with the Blue Rose magazine. I'm very pleased to be able to welcome a few of those. And in addition to that, we have a number of new counterparts that are coming online with the 7 Cents. This will include a gentleman by the name of Les Butterworth, also known as Balaram in the Hindu language. And Les is going to be talking a lot about the deeper aspects of spiritual practice, what it means, in 2020, how it relates to, on-planet and off-planet agendas, and a whole lot of other stuff that he's been able to garner, if you like, from a practice known as Suku Makakari, which is a Japanese discipline and all about honoring the divine balance of both masculine and feminine energies. Mark Lozier, the author of the 7 Cents and Building the 7 Cents book, is also going to be coming online more and more with us, and will be offering insights into the transhuman cyborg agenda and the shifts and changes taking place in the genetic template that we'll be delving into a lot more depth and detail about shortly. Each one of these practitioners, including Riki Buckingham, including Greg Delapay, and hopefully some of our other compadres, Corey Kaplan, I see Corey's just come online, and we'll all have the opportunity to broadcast their own shows. These shows won't have any duration restrictions on them. Unlike us here at Podbean, we're only allowed to basically broadcast for an hour and a half, and then whatever we say after that doesn't go out to our audience. So it's going to be great to be on a platform that isn't going to curtail when we're in the flow, when we're actually in the collective and in the flow about talking about something in particular. So we're really excited about that. And we're going to start moving things from Podbean across to Magazine Radio and across to magazine.com, the online blogs spot as of next week. Now, a couple of great things about Megazine today, I just want to point out, is looking at the website, which is at Megazine, spelled MEGAZINE.today. You're going to have a whole lot of like Instagram feeds, there'll be social media feeds. There's a whole kind of cultural community based around art life. There's the Mega radio station, there's Mega TV, where you can see copious amounts of, good YouTube videos that are both informative, challenge the grey matter, if you like, both on a science level, a spiritual level, a meta language level, all the different things that make life worth living. There's obviously an opportunity for those who want to sponsor these shows to advertise if that's going to float your boat, but we're not fussed either way. You can basically populate or send in your own content if you want to be a contributor. There is so much available for everybody to really, input their own personal experiences, their stories, and ultimately, to chronicle their journeys in a manner that can touch the hearts, minds, and souls of many, many people out in the world. So really excited about that. Wanted to share that with you all. And now let's sort of get into what's going to be a pretty full-on podcast. We haven't been online for a couple of weeks, and there's been a reason for that. We'll go into that a little bit later. But let's just say that everybody's feeling it. Okay, we're now officially 9 days into February, and it already feels twice as intense as January did, and we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction on the 12th, and that completely shook up our world to the point where we just thought, what the fuck? And many of us just kind of withdrew completely from all social interaction, went deeply into the cocoon, and some have remained there to this day. So let's put it into a context, shall we? The sun is in Aquarius and the moon is in Cancer. And we have a full moon in Leo on the 9th. So today, that is here in Australian Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time, we'll be experiencing the full moon. And of course, the full moon is taking place for you in the Northern Hemisphere tonight. So that's going to be very, very powerful indeed. And at the same time, we've got Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and the moon all in Pisces. So we have these four rather watery planets working in a very, very sensitive expanse of conscious understanding. So it's a very heightened and or sensitive time for all of us. And it's also a very compassionate time to be able to really recognize the depth of the delusion that's playing out, particularly in our relationships and within the expanse of our social circle. So today we're going to discuss the processes, if you like, of being able to recognize how everything in the external, within the external influences, is essentially affecting you, and how you want to be able to remove yourself from being affected by external circumstances and becoming the effector, right? Everything is medicine in the external if you ultimately allow it to be that way. And part and parcel of that is really being able to, once again, recognize the delusion. And the delusion is very real, my friends. There is so much that we believe or that we become somewhat beholden to or subservient and or slave-like to our capacity to accomplish certain things. But that all stems from a rather delusional landscape in the beginning. It's like navigating these uncharted waters with a heightened, sensitive kind of tuning rod that is wanting us to allow trust and release and surrender to be our guide, but we can't because we're so emotionally wrapped up in everything that's happening. And the reason why our emotions are being somewhat amplified and or intensified, which takes us away from being liberated, is because everybody around us is wrapped up within a fairly emotional, delusional state. So the journey for all in February is to really to find and nurture the feeling of being liberated within your own personal circumstance and or conscious expansion. What does that look like? What is that essentially presenting itself in a very authentic and somewhat visceral manner? Well, that's what the discussion will be about. And so let's bring Riki on board. Riki, hope you're with us. How you doing, brother?
All right. Pretty good, thank you.
What's been happening in your rather interesting world? As you know, we speak on nearly every day about the roles and the responsibilities that we're both undertaking to co-create together. But if you'd like to share with the listeners, where are things at with you at the moment?
It feels like returning to a state of balance, actually. So having been someone who's had a lot of chaotic sort of experience, not like we said about being affected by the external world, the external seems to be affecting me less, and inside is this state of balance. But it's funny which one comes first, Are you more balanced first, which means, the external world doesn't affect you, or, what is it that, so I've just been doing some detoxes and cleanses and stuff, and really focusing on slowing it down, doing what I love, and it's very interesting because a lot of the stressors, even, today, usually I'd be like, oh, we're doing a podcast, there's a little bit of anxiety because nobody doesn't have anxiety, like, as you know, people who get on stage and it's been singing in front of people for years,
Yep.
Still have it. But yeah, so there's a sense of deeper peace, which I really like because you're not so pulled about by things, which is, I suppose, the point, you're not so taken by the emotions and that, So I started doing this detox thing like about a week and a half ago, and it was just like, juicing a lot of food and cutting out those heavy carbs and all that, just to see what would happen, really. And bit of a commitment, to being healthy. And then, I had like 3 days feeling like amazing, really, really good, and then there was a big drop. And it was like all my suppressed sort of stuff was coming up, so there we go again. That's the emotional plane really kicking up right in my face. And this time, instead of going, oh, I don't like this, I'm gonna go and eat whatever, or distract on whatever, go on Facebook for half the day or something stupid. Not half the day,
I certainly hope not, Sunshine.
yeah. But the answer was, I can do this, like I'm just gonna ride this wave out. And I think that's the funny thing, because this is like the delusion, the idea as if you're not using anything to cope, as if, you've got everything under control. And, I know we can be moving forward, but sometimes we're kind of kidding ourselves that we are, and in dropping those addictions, it was like, wow, I woke up one of the mornings feeling like, okay, this is what I've been avoiding all my life, and I thought, well, I knew from experience that this wave is just going to go, if it's a day of depression, if it's a day of whatever, and we all have our down days, but to have, now what's been 2 weeks and there's only been 2 or 3 down days in the whole thing is showing that something's working right, and each time these waves come, it's like you learn to be all right with it more. So I suppose what we're trying to say is we're trying to be extremely real, extremely present with what is, and acknowledge what is, and not be running away from what is. And in doing so, you realize how strong you are, and I was playing music on the street and that, and being so much more in my power, you know, that sense of, there's almost a sense that you can do anything. You know, there's a sense that you are unlimited, you know, and it's not just a thought, it's something that you actually feel all the way through you, you know, because I think also because of the fact that you know that the choices that you're making are serving you, you know, and you trust yourself. So.
Well, you have to trust yourself. I mean, that's where it starts and stops. But where is the relief point to release the tension that stifles your flow of energy, that nurtures and nourishes your soul when you need it most? Because at the moment, yeah, I can hear it in your voice and your tone and your pitch that you're feeling the balance, that you're kind of riding the wave, if you like, and you're being somewhat lucid. But you weren't like that a couple of days ago. You're a mess. You were all over the shop.
That's it. Well, a mess compared to a mess for, you know, being in a good way, if that makes sense. Because obviously, you know what a mess is. A mess is like being like, oh, I can't do this, I want to die, you know. But I was there, you know, watching these feelings. That's the thing, you know, being the observer. So, yeah, first there's a conscious decision. Okay, I'm going to accept what is, and I'm not going to run away from what is. So life's like, okay, you know, you want to do that. And then secondly, when that stuff comes up, it's the realization, okay, you know, one of the days I didn't realize, I was so taken by what was there, and it was really weird because it was almost as if everything that I've denied through my entire life, you know, the entire delusion was making itself apparent. But, you know, the things that I thought I was bothered about in this part of me, I'm not really bothered about. But what I'm trying to say is that through the cleansing and through the dropping the unhealthy patterns, the truth comes to you, the truth of everything that you've been, you know, you thought you weren't upset about certain things and you actually are, you know?
Yep.
But so that's the reality of it, you know, and I suppose in one instance someone would be like, well, I'm going to go and have a drink because bugger it, you know, I'm not happy with the way this has gone in my life or whatever, but it's not the answer, of course. But yeah, so like you say, those couple of days I was like, whoa, you know, it all came up. And then the second day I was beginning to work with it. And this is what people don't do, you know, some people do, but in general, there's a tendency to just numb out and avoid or go and watch TV or whatever, you know, rather than sit with it, you know, and I did. And it was good, you know, it's good.
Okay.
And then the next day, back on a high again, you know.
Well, that's the AmpliTube. You see, the AmpliTube is how you set your priorities in the way that your experience comes from either a heart space in which you're expressing yourself in a very open, authentic, you're not attaching in any way, you're not trying to be somewhat affected by a circumstance or affect a situation, you're being the effector, right? Your heart is open, you're expressing yourself in a manner that has a very, very neutral position. And this is the thing that I think humanity is lacking right now. It doesn't understand that everything starts at a 0 point of energy. It starts at a very neutral position. And then it's influenced, right? It's influenced by the discussion you're having with your family, or the conversation that you're having with your friends, or the banter that you're getting into on social media, or the water cooler conversation around it in the workspace. You're then influencing that neutral point where you are now allowing yourself to become affected by it. And that's not what 2020, that's not what being liberated is really, really about at all, right? So one of the things that a lot of people have been doing is, in order to face the delusion from a more non-attached perspective that is kind of bombarding them in a singularity in any given moment, is to withdraw. But that's not what the planets are wanting us to do. That's not what the compressed photon light energy that's engulfing planet Earth right now wants us to do at all. It wants us to become expansive in the face of adversity. Do you understand what I mean by that?
I do indeed, yeah. I mean, there's a certain level of being able to challenge experiences and not run away from them, you know, and grow through all these experiences, you know, not hiding away.
So essentially, we arrive at a particular convergence point where our choices are either to be liberated or to keep us in a liberated state, because that's what chases and reinforces the bliss. And we have this ability during these difficult and challenging and emotionally overwhelming, and nobody gets me, and I will never be what I want to be, and there are people that are better than me, and that I am constantly attracting a negative flow because I don't believe I'm worthy. I haven't got the valor to truly express the highest octave of who I am. So here I am with my arms outstretched, admitting I am being affected, right? I cannot stress it enough. You're allowing everything within your particular toroidal state of flow to be affected by everything that's happening. Instead of being able to remain authentic through your lens of discernment to say, you know what, it just doesn't work for me. Now, I know you want me to go and do that. I know you want me to come drinking with you, and you want me to smoke dope with you, and you want me to puff, you know, do powders with you, and you want me to do this, and you want me to do that, because that's going to give you a greater sense of community acceptance. But that's not what I'm about. And it takes a lot more, you know, guts, determination, and a higher octave of choice to make those decisions, and simply then say, well, this is what I like to do. I prefer to go and swim naked in the river. I prefer to go and, you know, catch a fish for dinner. I prefer to go for a ride on the bike. I prefer to get on the, you know, in the inner tube and go for a float down the river during my vacation stay. And you're welcome to join me, because it gives me great bliss. It creates a huge swell of happiness within my whole perspective and outlook on life. But the point is that that's all you need to say. You don't have to go into the detail. Oh, this is why I am blissed out. I live in a bubble of joy. I'm grounded in gratitude. I'm always in greater service to other people. Well, people are going to find that it's going to trigger them, because they're not doing that, right? They're not doing that. They're sitting there in the delusion, wallowing, going, oh my God, when is this going to give me, as I said, when is the valve going to release enough emotional air so I can breathe again? The general consensus from a lot of people around the globe that I'm speaking to, including, you know, very highly elevated shamanic earth sisters in places like Peru, you know, and Latin America, is it's really hard to breathe.
It makes you wonder about the rest of humanity as well, if that's how it is for just, you know.
Well, this is why we're getting hardcore, right? We're simply saying that, look, at the end of the day, if you allow everything that's happening to affect you, that is, you are collapsing your wave function into a particle, right, that's solidifying into a form that's expressing itself in a very negative and or somewhat challenging kind of experience, well, of course you're going to find it hard to breathe. You're going to find it hard to basically maintain or sustain, right?
I also think there's a difference between, you know, being affected by something and how you deal with it, you know, because obviously you can be affected by something and think that that thing holds ultimate power, rather than actually, you know, be affected by it and let it go. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, if you're affected by nothing at all, then you don't really learn, because you don't realize what actually, you know, triggers you, if you know what I mean, what to work on, you know.
Absolutely.
But,
keep going.
Yes. So, you know, the point is to be able to work with how you're affected, you know, to not get too caught up in the drama, and actually, you know, move through that space and that's the difference between feeling empowered and feeling victimized. So things in the external can affect us, but when we feel like we have power, we just make another choice. But it sounds simple, that, doesn't it? Like I'm ill, and I'm dying of whatever disease. I mean, I can't say in those circumstances because I'm not there. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not there either.
I do know about, obviously, when you've got emotion and someone says something's upset you, and that. But there are so many ways to sort of pull yourself out of that state, yet while still learn from the experience. And I think that's the point there.
And that's the point that leads us into the fact that everything is medicine. This is the thing that we really would like to get across to everyone, is that all of these so-called external imbalances that are happening within the construct that you create for yourself, whether that's a deceptive construct, whether that's a blissful construct, whether that's one that allows you to grow and develop, the fact of the matter is that everything within that construct is medicine. It just depends on how you perceive that medicine to benefit you, right? And another thing Riki just said, which I really, really resonated with, was how can you get affected by nothing? Because when you break it all down, nothing is nothing until it's something. Right? Really? And I can't laugh about that. I can't see comedy in that. I can only get really passionate and full on about that, because if people could just relate to the fact that they're creating, right, their perception, their particular conscious expression is manifesting and creating their reality. But it all starts at a 0 point of nothing, right?
We draw a fence around experiences which obviously are neutral, but it depends what's happened in your life experience, obviously, as to how many react. But moving out of that space, I suppose the more your spirit comes forward, the more you have that sort of cane in yourself, that sense of self, then these things that you're triggering seem like external sort of events themselves, even your own body. It's not to say the body has value and the experience has value, when you can understand others, but it's very liberating not being so wrapped up in it. And I'm not there yet, but moving closer into that space all the time, is really special. But you can't just make someone get into that space. You know what I mean? It's like it's a life process, isn't it? And I think it doesn't help with the media and all that, because it's all sensational, dramatized. And we fought for a long time that was the way to react, that was the way to behave. To make a drama out of it was to show that you're upset about something, rather than actually, talk about it and cathartically, experience, release, move on.
Absolutely. Big cheer for that, because the whole perspective of liberation right there. Right? We're allowing our worthiness to become immersive. It's becoming experiential. The more experiential we are, by allowing our worthiness to emerge and say, I'm good with what I'm doing. It's enough what I'm doing. I don't have to rise and meet the sort of the gauged expectation of other people. I think the other thing here that is really stifling liberation at this time, when we have so much water in the sky, and Pisces is making us feel so sensitive that it only takes one word in a text or a phrase in a telephone conversation or a post on social media to set someone into a triggered mode where all of a sudden there's a tirade happening, is this really, really deeper need, right, to kind of generate that powerful self-love. Where's the self-love when we're feeling so sensitive? You know, why are we so concerned about everything that's happening outside of ourselves? Because it's actually all happening outside of ourselves. It's got nothing to do with our internal landscape. It's got nothing to do with God's divine plan. It's not part of the original blueprint. It's part of the delusion that we create for ourselves. So liberation starts and stops with recognizing the importance of having self-love, right? And that important sort of aspect that we can get in touch with, particularly when we, you know, if we need to withdraw, if we feel that our frequencies are creating dissonance with each other and we need to withdraw, then that's us needing to kind of search out, if you like, and connect with our inner child. Now, you know a little bit about that because you've done a lot of that recently, connecting with your inner child, which your particular grounding to nature is something that you use as a process, right?
Yeah, and you know, I think one good thing to realize is when you're around certain people, you can feel that sense of inner child is coming forward, and I think they are a telltale sign when they feel safe with someone. You know, when that part of you feels safe with someone, usually it's a good person to be around. You know, less judgmental, you know, less of the harshness of you know, control and all that. It's a good, you know, barometer sort of thing. But yeah, the inner child. What can I say about that? I just think that their feelings, you know, that the childhood stuff affected us a lot. I think everybody, to be honest, you know, everyone. And I'd like to say part of being an adult is being able to nurture the inner child. That's true, you know, but there's too much put on, you know, being this adult thing, you know. I mean, a lot of people think that the inner child is totally out of balance and, you know, causes chaos. But I think when you're nurturing yourself, when you do have that self-love, you know, you're not out of balance like that. You know, the inner child's happy and not, you know, creating all this conflict within you, you know. So I do think we need the time to not have to be serious all the time, you know, and that balance in all things.
Let's move away from the distorted expression of talking about adult or adult behavior and relate it instead back to the parental perspective, right? We're all parents, right? Because we're all infinite offspring of the infinite being, right? That's the one thing that's mirroring in a very real and visceral sense back at us in every moment of every second that we're sort of spending, you know, expanding ourselves on the planet, you know. The multidimensionality that is recognized in the linear Earth experience, but we're still essentially feeling so attached and so much, you know, akin to or a part of the environment that we create for ourselves.
That's the big thing. That's the big thing, because if you have a central core of beingness, which obviously I think Eckhart Tolle is great because he always talked about, you know, your energy, your being, whatever that is, you know, beyond the mind and that, you know.
Yeah.
If you are very in touch with that and you feel good within yourself, you know that the decisions you're making are feeding you, you know, and you're not full of regrets and all this stuff, you come to terms with things, you know, you're not bothered about she said this, blah, 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 because you are so focused on what you're here to do on the planet. You're so in alignment with, you know, with what serves you, that you're not bothered about these other things so much. You know, it's funny really, because the shadow and the, you know, the discord and all that has more say in your life when you're not happy yourself, you know, when you're not happy. And then of course you see in the outside world all these issues, you see, you know, whatever's going on, you know, you get transfixed on whatever it is that's not right about the world, you know. And I know these things matter, but again, neutral standpoint, you know, sitting in the neutral standpoint, not being, you know, totally attached to any of these things, you know. And it's not necessarily that's the right thing to do. It's not about right and wrong, but it's more that at this time for humanity, this is sensible to sort of get out of the way pull back from the experience a little bit and, experience things from a central core outside of all the madness, I don't know if that's still on point for you there, Mike, but...
No. It's all part of the larger expanse, because you see what you've just summed up there is what Aquarius energy is about. We are finally leaving the darker cusp of the Pisces age and moving into the Aquarian age. Now, this is where it gets weird, because at the end of the day, if we're in a simulation within a larger illusory third density holographic reality, then these so-called epochs or ages or doctrines, dogmas, religions, subservient pathways, none of it is real, right? Because it's all part of the hologram. It's all part of our simulation. But let's assume just for a moment, in the effort to keep some form of balance, that we are in fact experiencing what it means to move out of the darker age that Pisces was, where we were somewhat bombarded by so many different shifts within societal influence and structure, into this more liberated sense of who we are, which is the Aquarius energy. And the thing about Aquarius that you were just sort of talking about is it doesn't ask for permission, right? It's just about black and white. Right, this is what I'm doing. I don't need to question it. I don't need to draw detail around it. I don't have to give any reasoning to it. And I certainly don't need any codependence or dependency to it. I'm just doing it. And that's what people should just do. Yeah, it is a sensitive time, right? You've got Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and the Moon, all in Pisces, all pushing our sensitive, oversensitive buttons. But get over it, because at the end of the day, all you're doing is attracting more, collapsing more of that. You're observing more of that, so you're collapsing more of it in your life. And because you're collapsing it, you're making it real. You're embodying it in fear, and you're expressing the fear in all your social interactions and all your third-party integrations, right? Now, I got to tell you, that's delusional. That's delusion at its highest octave. And I think what we just need to realize is that everything that we believe is taking place in our life, in our environment, in our societal structure, in our belief structures, in our archetypal, interactions, whatever, it's happening outside of our true, but it's still part of the medicine. Everything is and the native tribes that lived in the Amazon jungle and still do today, some of them have never been discovered even by modern man today. They live and die by that principle of everything is medicine. Right? There is no sickness, there's no illness, there's no degeneration of the cellular structure if you don't perceive it to be part of your planar or real reality. Now, how does that make you feel?
Well, I think the main point is that they're understanding that we're beyond all this, And I think that's very important. Again, it's attachment, and I do it all the time, and we all do it. We've got our dreams, we've got things that we'd like to do, and it's good to have things we'd like to do, but we get very attached to the outcome of what we're trying to achieve, too attached, and there's such a drive in humanity to accomplish that, and I do see a lot of the tribal people as, some of them have been more balanced within that regard, because really they understand we're on heaven on earth anyway. It's like we don't need to be continually trying to improve. That comes from the state of, lack and disconnection from inside, this drive to achieve from an anxiety sort of state, rather than achieve to create from just for creation, You know, there's so much to be said about all of this stuff, Mike. It's pretty full on.
It is full on, and no one's saying it's not. And it's, for a lot of people, it's very, very difficult. It's really challenging. It's very much about fight or flight. And let's talk about fight or flight. Let's talk about the fact that back in those days when you know, one of the things that I shared with a lot of people yesterday, as you know, Riki, is I had a fairly sort of a powerful download about recognizing this kind of modality of moving from being affected by everything to recognizing that when we're no longer affected, we create a neutral position. And once we're neutral and we establish neutrality, then we can become the effector. Okay. Empowered, exactly. You know, feel as if we have that deeper, you know, connection to our worthiness, right? We're worthy to have these gifts. We're worthy to connect with nature. We're worthy to get to ground to Mother Gaia. And the thing is, in that audio, one of the things I reflected, and I was in two minds about playing the audio, but I knew it was going to create a lot of triggers in people. Because as you know, I don't mince my words. I don't see why I should have to. I'm more about trying to express a language that's kind of designed, if nothing else, to offer an alternative perspective. And I think it works to a greater degree, especially when that language comes from the heart and comes from a very authentic space. But I will reflect back on one of the items, and one of the items was, when we're in this, what we call the do or die Aquarian energy that we're all in for February. And by the way, just so everyone knows, February's a motherfucker, and it's going to stay that way until the end of it. And maybe in the first week of March, the reins will kind of loosen a little, but it's going to be hardcore all the way to the end of the month. So part and parcel is, when you get a thought that you've collapsed into an actionable form and it compels you to do something, I need to go to this website right now, or I have to pick up the phone and call this person, or I need to download something, or I need, you know what I mean? It's like you feel somewhat internally driven or compelled to do something. Well, this is the energy brought about by Uranus in Taurus, to trust it, right? Don't second guess yourself. Don't go, oh, damn it, I haven't spoken to that individual for such a long time and wonder what they're going to react to if I call them or whatever. Believe me, you're not the only one having a wake-up call right now. You probably find that individual that you're being asked to call at the moment or connect with has probably gone through the same thing as you, and will probably get on the other end of the phone and go, hey, man, geez, it's really good to hear your voice. I'm going through some stuff at the moment, and I could use a little bit of what I call, you know, a springboard. You know, hey, are you feeling what I'm feeling, man? You know, at the end of the day. And one of the things that I did is I got compelled yesterday to download the Mel Gibson film Apocalypto, which is really a beautifully filmed account of the Mayan native tribes and their belief structures, their societal hierarchy, you know, their subservient and slave-like behavioral patterns, if you like, and all in the name of fight or flight, which is better represented in the survival mechanism or the survival program, which is part of a recycling program of our consciousness. And when we watch something for the first time, we somewhat feel a bit distracted. Okay, we're distracted by our stupid phone. That smartphone piece of shit is somewhere high, right? And it kind of makes a ding noise. And as I said last time, we have the smartphone flinch, where we look kind of ridiculous when we do it in public. But we're immediately distracted, okay, by something. And so we're watching it and we're not really experiencing it through the eyes, if you like, through the lens that the director intended for us. Am I making sense so far, Riki?
Yeah, spot on. You've got to pay attention, and I always feel that, like really,
okay.
This is a matter of respect, when I watch a film.
Absolutely. So this time I'm watching Apocalypto, and I've become so much more aware, heightened sensitivity, somewhat even telepathic in the way that I communicate and share vibration with other people, that this whole new language, this whole form of expression revealed itself to me behind the general storyline. And I walked away from the film feeling incredibly sad. I walked away feeling incredibly alive, grateful, and a deeper understanding of the plight of all the people in other countries right now that don't have the luxury of us Westerners, right, to be able to find solace in listening to music through the internet on Spotify or whatever like that, because we haven't got that. We haven't got those basic human needs covered, right? That's what became clear, that the mirror demonstrated by the Mayan overlords over the people, right? Because the gods told them that as far as they're concerned, until we're appeased, you just got to keep sacrificing, more and more people and spilling their blood because we need to be satiated. I mean, come on. That's the most deluded concept ever presented on a screen. And yet there are all these people probably watching it going, now that's really important. I can see what they do there. I can see how that's a very good thing. It's not a very good thing. It just shows the fear that exists within society because it doesn't know any better. Why? Because it's always being affected by everything that's happening in the external, and they don't know how to liberate themselves from being affected by it. So they become more embedded in it, more ingrained. It becomes cultural. It becomes cross-cultural. It becomes an addiction. Fear becomes the addiction. And that's what fuels the fucking delusion, man, more and more.
And that other word, it becomes real. That's your reality. You believe that to be real, because that's the thing, the delusion becomes something which you think matters, because you're not sat outside of it, It's like if I could go and get caught up with the rebellion extinction, and truly, really, really get into it, and it becomes my world, and I become completely identified and caught in with it, and then, whatever it is, I could become a vegan, or I could become a meathead and hate vegans, and become so caught up in, you know what I mean?
I love it, because you see, that's the authenticity that's pouring forth, because we both feel so liberated, right? We're liberated from, and look, for the record, guys, and I can see we've got quite a few people online, and thank you so much. We really do appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Can we just say that Riki and I and Corey and, and Greg and, and so many others, we're all single dudes, right? We're single dudes. We don't have relationships. We're not married. We don't have dependents. There's no codependence as well. And this makes the navigation of these powerful uncharted waters that we're all swimming in right now a damn easier to handle, right?
I think if you're connecting with someone, if you want to stay truly clear, then you've got to have someone who is really up to challenge. I won't say the challenge, I'll just say up to challenge, to really themselves and rising together. Otherwise, most relationships, it's not, it depends on what level you want to do things, but if you truly want to be clear, then you know, it does matter how long and who we spend our time with. And of course, relationships put a lot of time into another person. It does matter who we're around in that way, you know.
Absolutely, you know, and I mean, it's difficult, and no one's saying it's not difficult for most of you, particularly the women out there. You know, I can understand how it all must probably feel like, you know, a jumble, a mix of, you know, bombarding emotional elements that doesn't see you make head or tail of up or down or side to side, because the delusion affects you so much more than it does the male, because you are your whole circulatory system, your whole cardiovascular system, your whole endocrine system, all the different, you know, body elemental fractals or fragments that make up your, you know, vessel, your vehicle, is fueled by emotion, right? It's an overwhelming sense of everything happening to you at once, and you just need to breathe, right, girls? You just need to breathe. You just need to cut yourself slack. And once again, if the frequency that you're emanating and radiating from the highest octave of who you are isn't being received, you know, your transmission's not being received by the organic receptors of other people, remove yourself from that interaction, and no one will think less of you, right? It's not something that, you know, is easy for anyone to be able to necessarily face, but it's harder, I believe, it's harder for women right now, and we've both experienced it.
Yeah, this need for, because a lot of women find it hard to say no, you know, and now they are, which I think is really good, you know, is starting to have their power and their boundaries back. You know, I mean, I've noticed there's been a leaning towards having too many boundaries because of the collective feeling violated, the collective feminine feeling hurt, you know, so it's like the too many boundaries, and then people can't, you know, when you're too guarded, people can't, you know, get in. But I just wanted to say about, you know, how I feel all of this has played out over the thousands of years sort of thing.
Yep.
And I feel that originally, you know, in Lemuria, whatever, you know, some points through human history, women and men had our emotional bodies working in a way which was not out of balance, you know, in a way in which we were the observer of these things and we knew how to work with them. You know, we were in our power, basically. I don't know when that was or whatever, it doesn't really matter the details again, but point being is that I do feel that we've had thousands of years, I don't know how long now, of this sort of control and emotional suppression. And what this means is, at this age now, which is, you know, Aquarius or whatever, you know, we're starting to uncover all that and the collective pain body and all that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that because there's been so much suppression,
yep,
a lot of it's all just coming bang up in people's face, you know. And I know that a lot of the women, when you lovely people sat on the earth and sensing the earth, they feel from Mother Earth too, you know, that they're meant to feel. But what's happened is that it's all got completely like a massive backlog, you know, completely backlogged. You know, it's similar to, I think, the way the indigenous people used to work with spirit, and you know, how now we've stopped working with the ancestors. You know, we've stopped, you know, in our cultures, we stopped acknowledging, respecting, you know,
yep,
the ancestors. And I think that there's a sort of, you know, there's a lot that's not being done on that level. So what I'm trying to say there is that through thousands of years now, where humanity dropped from its sort of state of grace and general awareness, we now have quite a lot to sort of look at, realize and deal with, you know, that we didn't realize was there. And it seems like a lot now, but, you know, over the next hundreds of years, you know,
yeah, man,
things should balance out a lot more in that way, and women will find themselves, and the men who are more sensitive will find they can deal with it much easier. But I mean, saying that, we can do that within our lifetime, you know, and I feel like the work I've done has helped me become better with that, you know, not being all over the place, you know.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think also the fact is that when all of a sudden the veil of amnesia, you know, is lifted and everybody becomes very consciously aware because they become sensitive to their environment, they have a heightened and a greater awareness of who they are and what they stand for. It's a lot to integrate, right? I've been doing this integration process now for over a year, right? I've been embodying the new solar light codes that I've been downloading and allowing my own light body to fill every day for nearly a year. And I'm still only scraping the surface. But what I've come to the conclusion of, because, you know, part and parcel is also recognizing the distortion within the spiritual realm, right? What you may have thought was important to you on a spiritual level a year ago or 2 years ago or even 6 months ago has shifted 180 degrees right now. And don't say it hasn't, because it has. Because all of a sudden people are being exposed for what they are. You know, most of the so-called gurus and those expressing the guru mentality, which is really all about, you know, hey, this is my flow, come follow me, I know better than you, are being exposed as being rather, you know, egomaniacs, you know, and rather manipulative. And rather more about kind of generating cult-like behavior, which fucks you up. I'm sorry, you know?
Messes up a lot. I was talking to someone yesterday who's saying about, because she put a post of her YouTube video in a group, you know, and there was hardly any comments or anything, you know, and this other person had lots, you know, but the person who had lots of comments was doing them, or the faking, you know, the pulling people in, you know, and you know, I wanted to say to her, and I did, you know, about the, you know, this is about your connection between you and your higher self, you know, and it's like, if you know something's right, you stick by it, and if you've got, you know, one person that you can share it with, then good, that's one person, you know, don't worry about the numbers, because that is the delusion. And, you know, if we start getting into delusion in a minute, this is going to go on for like fucking 8 hours, you know, because like, delusion is all around us in our, you know, what you'd call delusion is all around us. And I think, you know, it's not good to be wrapped up in looking at the delusion, but it's certainly a damn sight helpful to see what those things are and how you're deluding yourself, because you're going to get yourself out of the maze of, you know, illusion and delusion, you know, by following your heart and you know, each day is a process. You know, nobody's fully there yet, but you know, have the strength and the courage to understand that these steps, you know, including these difficult situations that we don't like, you know, will lead us there. It's about being real, you know, and I'm just learning what that word "real" is this year, you know, in the last years.
Brilliant, man. I mean, you should be so commended is the word. You should be commended for your effort to recognize within this new language of unity what the hell real is, you know, what is real.
Well, yeah, I mean, and on an ultimate level, there probably isn't such thing as real, but there are things that we know, there are things that we deny, and there are things that we push away, and that, you know, ultimately, the more we push things away, we sort of disempower ourselves, you know.
That's right.
And I mean, it's like me, I pushed away the part of me that's really confident, you know, and wants to jump about and, you know, be excited and, you know, be good with the ladies and, you know, all that stuff, you know, and shame came in and all this. And I didn't even know that was happening to me, you know what I mean? Like, I just grew up and then got hit by the trauma and, you know, I feel all right about it now, but, you know, and went into a different world, you know, timelines changed for me, and I didn't see how I was avoiding life. And you see, I was, you know, if you want to talk about delusion, you know, I was staying in all the time, smoking weed when I was younger, and, you know, it's not to shame it, but it's just the point that I see now that it was a way of escaping reality, you know, and you can get to a point where you find comfort in escaping reality, and so much of spirituality has been doing that, you know, has been about going into that comfort zone of, like, you know, like my friend Jay was saying, you know, if I just meditate, I just do this mantra 50 times and I'm going to be all right, you know. It's like
what a crock of shit that is, man.
Doing that, you know.
Yeah, that's a crock of shit, dude. I mean, that's become my favorite term. Most people say, and I go, that's a crock of shit. Oh, but what about, that's a crock of shit. Because at the end of the day, the delusion starts with something that we don't want to necessarily accept or recognize. And you know what that is, Riki?
It's a lot of bloody things.
Well, it's codependency, man. It's this desire, it's not even a desire. It's this conditioned need, if you like, right? To basically fall into a habitual pattern of being dependent on something or someone to kind of ratify what it is you're doing, right? To justify what it is that you're doing, what you're expressing, and whatever. So the delusion becomes even more real when it's all wrapped up in a certain level of codependency. We can't see the trees from the smoke that we create. And behind that ginormous tree that lays just beyond the smoke that we create is another forest of possibility and probability.
Oh, loads of possibility, and it's beautiful opportunity we have, you know, and I love that.
So one of the things, speaking of mantra, that we can offer people is to simply say, you know, when they wake up in the morning, if they can come up with a simple thought, collapse it into an actionable point of view of, I will not be codependent today. I will not be codependent today, right? And then the next day comes along, and the next day, and that's how mantra, or what we call a reinforced intention, allows your energy to support it.
Yeah, I think it's where you're coming from as well, because if you're doing a mantra from a place of a healthy place, it's a different thing, but there is, of course, doing something to try and hold on to a sense of reality, you know, and I understand that very, very well, because there are a lot of people whose reality will break just like that, you know, just by losing, you know, one of their cars or something, you know. It's like, that is how delusional it is. That is how, you know, this is fear. This is deep fear, because people are clinging to safety, you know. You can't just say there's no reason for that either, and that they're just rubbish and they shouldn't do that, because fear, as you know, when you get caught in that, it grips you like nothing, you know. And, you know, we have a human population who is gripped by fear, you know, and that leads you to the codependency on the external things, the foods, the TV, the shopping, the reality, you know. It's all right as long as I just do this, you know, it's all right, sort of thing. And, you know, things need to be coming from a healthy place, I suppose, is the point. And, you know, yeah, affirmations and all these things can be helpful in that way. But when we're using something, you know, like, I just focus on the light, the light, the light, the light. I am the light, I am the light. Like I was saying in that video I sent to you, Mike.
Dude, we're all delusional, man. I mean, just by acknowledging and facing the fact that we're all wrapped up in the delusion. And that's what 2020 has been the biggest freak out for most. Because we were all told that we were going to wake up and, you know, look on the other side of the mirror, and staring back was the new you, and look, oh, it's the new me, and I'm not attached to this anymore, and I'm not being affected by external influences, and I know exactly where I'm going, and I'm embodied, and I'm, you know, rubbish. It's about challenges. How are you dealing with what life throws at you, because you're the one that's creating it? Like if you have I'll give you a great example, right? I love this. A friend of mine did this just the other day. He kept saying to his wife, I don't want to get up on Monday morning. I hate Monday morning more than anything in my life because it's the day when I feel pressure and stress already creeping in come late Sunday afternoon, early evening, because I've got to go and punch a clock and turn up for another 40 hours a week at work, right? And he kept hearing this inner voice saying, you don't have to get up. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to get in a car. You don't have to go and wrestle the traffic. You don't have to yell at all the idiots that are aimlessly zombifying along the highways. You don't have to, go and be subservient to a boss in order to get a paycheck. You can just make a choice to not do it. And when you go in there after you haven't done it and you say, I'm sorry, but things came to a head and I just didn't come in because I just couldn't be fucked. And you know what happened to that guy when he did that? The boss turned around and said, I'm glad you did what I've been wanting to do for the last 6 months. Are you serious? So he thought his wife kept saying, don't do it, don't do it. We've got a mortgage, we've got children, we've got responsibilities, we've got a vacation coming up in Hawaii, we've got all this stuff, don't jeopardize it. But instead, he embraced the fact that he didn't want to be attached, he didn't want to be affected, right? He didn't want to have codependency. So he just turned around and he was authentic and he presented his truth, and his boss turned around, as I said, and said, you've got the balls that I wish I had for the last 6 months wanting to do what you've done. You're not being fired. I'm commending you. I'm applauding you, right?
Love it.
Because that's the way that we're conditioned to think, that it's the be-all of the end-all if we don't do it.
Well, it's belief, isn't it? And it's what we believe, becomes our reality, and the beliefs are faulty, I just want to say, because I see this a lot around me, people around me, of course, and I see it in myself. And I had this decision like 2 weeks ago, I said I was doing the cleansing, and in my heart it said, look, just go 100% at eating really, really clear, no excuses, no second, no half ways, So not talking about doing it, polarized in a way like, I'm being too harsh on myself. It wasn't about that. It was about my soul saying, do it this time, do it fully, And so I did, I decided, I'm not going to be weak with it, And my point is that I knew inside me that, okay, I'm not getting enough money to afford to eat this food that I want to do, But I knew inside me that if I go and do it and I have some of that food and I feel better, my singing's going to be better. I'll make more money, from the music, and I'll be able to afford what I need to buy, And it worked, it worked. So the point is, it's about taking a risk and then allowing the universe to support you through that risk, allowing that change, allowing yourself to break these, these core beliefs and go against them, see what happens, and wow, because I admit I'm one person who's lived my life afraid to do certain things. It's made me think now, let's do that. Let's gamble. What have you got to lose? It's like with these guys who really struggle with dating people, and they find it really tough, and they're like freezing up and stuff. I was talking to my mate who was saying about that, and it's like you kind of believe that they're just not going to like you, or you're even too bothered about the outcome, and breaking past that, it's kind of not easy, but it is at the same time,
But that's what's liberating, Riki, as you know. That is what's liberating. Everything that's happening outside of yourself is not something that you need to be concerned about. That's not the road to liberation, right? That's the road to wrapping yourself in the delusion. And everything you was just speaking about was reflective of the delusion, right? But escaping from the delusion by no longer being affected by anything happening in the external other than recognizing that it's all medicine, whatever it is. Everything that's negative, every offense that's drawn against you, or any offence that you've ever drawn against another creates what they consider to be, a rip in the timeline, and therefore a certain amount of traumatic experience is captured there and held, which they then refer to, as karma. Okay? And that karma is something that you drag along with you more and more and more and more. And then you've got to be accountable for it. Like, in the Christian Judaic sense, you've got to be accountable for your sins. I'm sorry, but that's just delusional. All of it, right? That's just you being told how guilty and how shameful you need to feel because you've violated some defined order or natural rigid law which didn't ever existed in the first place. That's what you're doing when you become liberated. And this is what light body infraction, I know this is a bad word, I think. Is it infraction? To be when you receive or is it induction?
I'm not sure.
Well, let's not worry about it. Whatever it is, anyway, it's when you are literally not only receiving, a much more concentrated expanse of light into your vehicle, but it's also building your toroidal field. It's building your field of perception. It's building your field of available experience, right? That is also reflective of the liberation. That's what we need to embrace and what we need to feel. And there's the magic word right now. People can't find a way to recognize what it means to feel. Now you can take it from there, because feeling is something that you're very mindful of, right? Whereas, I'm re-experiencing, I'm learning what it is to feel, not just experience, right?
Yeah, I think desensitization and resensitization are very much on my mind at the moment, because I suppose I lump in the sort of intuition along with the feeling line, in other words, spirit can communicate in that way with us, not just mentally, by giving us a feeling of something, a feeling of warmth at something feeling good, or a cold shiver at something being spiritual, these sensations and feelings. So, I really think that much of humanity isn't feeling, and we've become so used to the comfort zone. This is along the lines of how we live in the houses, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the point is we like everything perfect, this perfect sort of state of perfect temperature, you've got everything, you don't have to challenge yourself, but the natural world is full of these changing, fluctuating
good point
experiences which make us feel, whether that's sensation in the physical world, which is like a wake-up call. It's like bang, makes you wake here, and computers and being in an artificial world, caught in your mind is takes you away from that very, very real and present thing, and I feel that the numbing out is just going hand in hand with all of the, if you're numbed out, it's easy for you to just be someone to be driving along, just chuck out their litter out of the car, it doesn't matter, nothing matters because I'm numbed out, so nothing matters, I don't feel that anything matters because
yeah, good point, man.
I'm not, I'm just numbed out, so it's like, I think that's one of the most important things to try and understand as humanity at the moment, that if we're truly sensitive, it doesn't mean that we're and like gonna get in a drama about everything, and that's a completely different thing. There's actually a balanced state of sensitivity in which we can cope with everything actually a lot better, because we're not denying everything, we're not constantly putting the brakes on, and saying I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. It's like you're allowing what is, you're allowing yourself to experience which is the word you said, experiential, weren't you?
Experiential,
allowing yourself
yeah.
to experience the experience, you know, and that makes me think, because this is on my mind a lot about women at the moment, and how, you know, like if someone who I fancy walks by, like I'll feel myself freezing up, you know. It's like, you know, have I really actually ever experienced that feeling, those butterflies and that, or have I been pushing that away, you know? Because I'll, you know, there's the avoidance, if you see what I mean, with these certain experiences that we have, because we don't like what sensations we feel.
Yep.
You know, but the more we can get okay with what we do actually feel, it's like there's the liberation comes there, because it doesn't affect you anymore. You know, you're the effector of your reality, because you're not affected by it, because what essentially happened was you felt what was, it came and it gone within, like, you know, 1 minute.
There you go. That's
and
brilliant.
You're not resisting it, you know.
Exactly, and resistance is something that we're really good at. We're experts at resistance,
yes.
right? We love the fact that we can resist something, because why? Once again, it's like a broken record. It reinforces our safety and our security in life. You know,
our perceived safety and security. That's the thing as well, isn't it? Because I like to use those words there, because it isn't actually safer to be resisting and, you know, avoiding isn't actually making us safe. We just perceive that it did. Like if someone attacks you, you know, you don't want to go to certain places because you think that it's going to happen again. And all likelihood, the experience you had was like never going to happen again, you know, but you perceive it to be that way.
That's right. So we're arriving now at a point where we're understanding that in order for us to feel empowered in our newfound liberation, part of that, and this is why, you know, I really appreciate the very few people that I count on my left hand that I consider to have that moniker as a friend, right? I don't believe that we have loads and loads of friends. We have heaps of acquaintances that are there in a very fleeting sense, and when you put them all together, they don't end up shit. But I really appreciate the few people that, you know, accept you and your shifts and your changes and your newfound, you know, heightened awareness and awakening. I really appreciate that more than anything. So it's really now about defining our tribe and essentially assigning not necessarily a role or a responsibility or defining an agenda by defining what that tribe is, but just allowing that to just grow in a very natural and or organic manner, because then everything really is medicine. Everything is taken, you know, with a very, very small grain of salt, because it all has a beneficial outcome to it. And that's what this full moon in Leo, I just want to go a little bit further if I may, Riki. That's what this full moon in Leo, which is happening now for me and in the States, you know, now and then us to tonight, is about. It's recognizing that even though we may not necessarily have admitted how many negative thoughts or how many psychic darts we've thrown at other people, or how much an animosity that we felt, or jealousies or rejections or whatever, they're all considered offenses, right? And those offenses, essentially, they tabulate on your AmpliTube of experience of what happens, you know, as far as, you know, collatable experience. And the full moon is when everything compresses to a particular point where it's ready to release and surrender. So if we get out there and we simply ask for forgiveness, that is to forgive ourselves for, you know, and I'll use a Christian term, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, then that's going to bring us back to a neutral slate. And when we wake the following day, which for us here in Australia is going to be Monday morning, the beginning of another new 7-day cycle, we will be able to feel as if we've arrived at that 0 point of neutral energy again. So there's something that everybody can really embrace. And it doesn't mean that you have to go out there and under the full moon and kind of, raise your palms to the sky or clasp your hands above your head or anything like that. It's just setting the same vibration and sending that vibration in your intention to forgive and to allow those offenses to dissolve and dissipate into the ether, because they serve no purpose. You're not attached to them. Yeah. There's no codependency to it, because at the end of the day, nothing's nothing until it's something, right?
Yeah, I think it's learn and move on, and forgiveness is one of the most powerful things I've ever done. I had a lot of tears come up one time where I was doing a lot, I was forgiving, can't remember who it was, and then I started to forgive family after that. It was like it went on to a big thing, and then myself, and it was quite amazing really, and I felt really good after it. And there was a lot of tears because it was the letting go of the offences. I didn't even know I'd got all these offences and experiences and stuff, because you don't, it's often in your subconscious, but and a lot of people build them up over their life, don't they? And then all you've got to do is say something or look at them the wrong way and they're about to trigger and explode,
Yeah.
And that just shows again my point that humanity has been suppressing for so long now, that the dramas and that are an unhealthy person's or an unhealthy way of expressing and trying to resolve these offences, and it doesn't work.
Brilliantly said. I love that. Not only being able to respect it, but to resolve it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How many people have actually even entertained that rather expressive term of resolution or resolving in their lives? I bet you none. I bet you no one's trying to resolve anything, because everybody's trying to maintain and sustain the bullshit that they're currently, allowing to infect their everyday, their every moment.
Well, a lot of people don't think they have the time with the new offences that are coming in and their life. But, again, it's your core belief, isn't it? And it's what do you believe that you can achieve? And unfortunately, you can live in a world where you believe that this is just how it is and there's nothing I can do about it. And people actually believe that that's true and live it,
Absolutely.
Scary.
Well, it is scary, but I think it's by being really honest with people. I mean, I'm not going to air my dirty laundry on air, because that's not my place to do it. But what I've been recently going through, particularly with family. I go into a family dynamic, and everybody's got something to say. They're all coming from their own belief structures and whatever. And then it's like, hey, Mike, what do you think? You're the eldest. What are your thoughts? And I go, no, you don't want to know. You don't want to know, because you're not ready to know what I think, right? Because I'm not going to echo what is considered to be the predictable response. That's not me. There's no authenticity in that.
It's also painful as well, for people to hear the truth, and like you say, we don't want to know. That's the denial. Denial has become normal.
Yeah, good point.
But actually, I've got a couple of notes here, so I'll just have a quick look about that, because that's reminded me. Yeah, so we've got about copping out, and resisting what is. We've said about that.
Yeah.
And of course, denial and all that is a great way to, if you can't deal with the reality of something, So that is interesting, isn't it? Because we're talking about reality, which I know there isn't probably a real reality, but at least there are some things which are evidently there that we don't want to look at, So you've got that on one side, and then you've got the denial on the other side. And, again, when things are too painful, you can almost not see that something's there. You know, you don't even see that something exists. You've completely wiped something out, and this is what happens with relationship breakups. You know,
Yep.
the person wipes the other person out completely, and it's not really the way to resolve it, because you've just said, you know, and I can greatly understand, you know, when these things are so painful, you just want to completely cut off, and you know, and that is how people get stuck for years, you know, in that state, and then the answer becomes food, drugs, whatever, you know, that's the answer. But on this path, you've got to have the faith that if you drop your dependencies, if you truly follow your heart, that you will, you know, you will come through to a beautiful, beautiful place, you know, and the rewards, not that I like to think in the way of rewards and, you know, and all that stuff, but, you know, the experiences will come along the way, which really make you go, flipping heck, I'm glad I did that. You know, I'm glad I'm not hurting myself in these ways. I'm glad I've changed my attitude towards life, and now a whole new life awaits me. And that, you know, no matter what these people say, who say to you, you know, like, you know, follow me because I've got the way, and if you follow this way, you know, you'll find liberation, you know. But it's true, but it's you find liberation in your own way. All I can say to people is there is a beautiful world awaiting you, and that world is the world of your spirit guiding your life. You know, when your spirit's guiding you, you know, it's like fear, it doesn't really have so much of a place, you know, because you know you've done the best you can, you know you're not living a lie, because I see it in people. I see them doing things which they don't want to be doing.
That's right.
You know, and I can see the part of them that doesn't want it, and I can see the other part that puts on delusional mask that goes, hello, how are you today? You're a lovely customer. Yes, I saw you last week, didn't I? You know, I mean, I know some people do like doing those sort of jobs, that's a different thing, but point being that, you know, I think the more elevated you get, the more you can discern, you know, that looks like a fugazi, that's just I can't remember the word you keep using now.
Well, yeah, it's a falsehood. It's a false mask, you know. It's a false perception, you know. But we become what we call incredibly discerning to it. And when we become discerning, and when we become more elevated in our discernment, people get jealous. They reject us because they're going, well, hang on a minute. How can you go on social media when everybody's screaming about, you know, impeachments and colonial viruses and all this kind of stuff, you know, which is absolutely denigrating the whole structure of society, the whole rigidity of society. It's just crumbling as we know it, right? And you go on social media and you write down, I'm totally blissed out. I've never felt more aligned, more in tune. I love life. I love everything that the world presents me. I don't attach to anything. And people lose their shit over it and go, well, you know, you talk about delusion, Michael. Aren't you a perfect embodiment of delusion? I said, no, actually, fuck you. I'm actually an embodiment of liberation. I feel liberated, and the reason. Go on.
Yeah. Well, at least we can do is say that we are really, you know, when you're really trying to see clearly, you know, at least that's a step towards it. You know, that's a step towards it. You know, I mean, I'm probably pumping out some delusional stuff here and there, you know, but you know, the willingness is what's needed. The willingness is most important, you know.
I think where we've come to is we've also arrived at a convergence point where we know in our hearts what feeds our soul, right? We know. It's like I said, you know, I got to go away next week, and everyone who's going away is a bogan, and they're all wrapped up in addictions and boozing and drugs and smoking like chain smokers, and they're going to get totally wild on the river and smash jet skis again. The whole thing is a nightmare, right? But I've already made a choice consciously that when it's like, hey man, come on, let's get into it. You know, this is what we're here for. I'll go, well, actually no, because that used to give me pleasure. but it doesn't float my boat anymore. What floats my boat is going for a naked swim in the river, going fishing to catch a nice big cod for dinner, getting on the dune buggy and going for a bush bash up in the mountain. Yeah, I do all that because that's what gives me bliss. That's what makes me happy. And if you want to join me, then join me. But I'm not going to tell you why, right? Because the minute you tell someone why, or you bring a story into the focal, understanding, what are you doing? You're preaching, right? Well, actually, because I wake up and I don't see things the way that you see. My lens is different to your lens. Therefore, my perception is different to your perception. And they only perceive that as, well, this guy's just denigrating me, right? Isn't he? He's just denigrating me. He's just playing me down. And that's one of the reasons why when I talk to, the women that are in my sort of my circle of influence, then we get a situation where it's kind of like, well, look, you go on your journey, you experience what you need to experience, and then you can share that without necessarily asking me to become codependent to it, right? So that's the convergence point, that we're beginning to recognize, well, I am, you are, I know a number of the other team members are who are, doing other things at the moment. We're recognizing what it is that we feel and deem important in our lives, and where we want to focus our energy, and where our attention becomes our intention to lead a better and a more wholesome and a more connected life.
Yeah, and a lot of this is about what nurtures, what truly nurtures, because there are some things that, sort of fill a temporary void, but then you're left empty, and that isn't coming from the soul of us, and so to nurture ourselves truly feels great. It feels great because each time you nurture yourself like that, in life, whether it's a good experience with a good person, something you eat, whatever it is, it's healthy. But it seems to lead you up to another level, because you've dropped another you could have gone down an unhealthy path, but you chose to do the whatever health is for you. And I mean health in all ways, not just food. I mean, in interactions and always in life. It's like bouncing on a springboard, and then you're up to another level and then another level, and that's the kind of faith and trust in life I think a lot of people don't have, and I'm saying that because just to say that I see that and that's there, it's there, and all happens is more and more possibilities open up in your life, and then the positive thing is that the more things you do which really enliven you and bring your spirit in, the more things like the stuff that you've been deluded about, the difficult things, become a walk in the park, because you're experiencing yourself as greater than the place that you're stuck in. You're experiencing that you now have all these opportunities available to you. Life is everything's medicine. You have all these opportunities. So, the next time that anger comes up, the next time that pain comes up, it's like, okay, I feel that this is for a deeper reason. I feel that I can move through this. I'm bigger than this. So it's very powerful coming into our truth and and being able to be real. Being able to be real. And I can sit there and say that, and I'm not kind of there yet, but at least I'm aware of it, to a degree.
You're mindful. That's half the battle. You're not affected by it, right? You're mindful of it. You're allowing yourself to feel what it's like to liberate yourself from what you think you're being affected by. I can't stress it enough, man, that most people will just not allow themselves to break free of the self-perpetuated delusion they create for themselves. They're the ones that create the smoke, and the smoke is what is creating the fire. Elliot wants to call in. Elliot, we can't hear you call anything. unless you're on a headset, man, you can't. You can call the WhatsApp if you want, or you can call in on Skype. Okay?
Actually, when I tried it last, people could phone in on their mobile phones without a headset.
They could. Well, I'm getting no ring. It would say that it would ring, right? So, and you know, I'll just ask.
Yeah, I've had someone call in before using their phone without a headset, and it worked.
All right. Well, hang on. Just try again. Hang on. Let me just say that. Just try again, because we want to hear from you. You know, I mean, this is why we fucking hate Podbean, because it's a pile of shit as far as an interface is concerned. But we're moving away. So everybody, just so you know, we're moving away. We're going to Magazine Radio. And at the very top of the chat window, oh, look, I'll just help everyone out. I'll just go again. Here it is. So this is where we're going. This is the new destination. Everyone's going to have their own show. And also we have a blog, a magazine, an online magazine with a blog that takes you to the TV station, the radio station, the you know, all this stuff. So these particular websites, which are free, of course, will be where our destination will end up. So that's what I'm talking about.
I just
go,
Mike. I just want to say that the thing with human condition, you know, where us humans are, is that the very nature of how we work, or how we have been working, especially the last however many years, we can look at something and experience, we can look at a subject, we can go into something, for instance, electronics or whatever, and we become completely immersed within that experience and become so absorbed, so that experience becomes a reality. And I feel that
well done.
I don't know whether it's the original blueprint or not. I've not kind of like got myself to that level of understanding yet, but I feel that we were meant to be able to stay outside of those experiences. So you have experience, you know, you take what you need from experience and you enjoy experience, you know, and you're not just there like watching it all the time and not getting fully immersed in it, but part of you is always there that realizes you are more than the experience, for one. And I feel like that's so important, you know, it's because that allows you to not, you know, to realize that it's just a game, you know, like where Bill Hicks was saying, you know, about life's roller coaster sort of thing, you know, just a ride sort of thing he was saying, you know.
Yeah, good old Hicksy, yeah, definitely.
You know, and I think that's really the thing, you know. I mean, the time it becomes quite serious is when you're obviously in pain and you've got disease and you I can't imagine that's very easy to sort of let go of, you know. I've not had to deal with all that yet, but yeah, it's not so much letting go, but it's realizing that you're greater than all these things, you know. And until we can sort of remember that, then the delusion, you know, everything can become a delusion, because like for me, you know, my love of music can become, instead of me just creating and enjoying myself, can become obsessive listening to other people's music and using it as a crutch to, you know, to avoid life and to just constant escapism into films or you know, music and that, rather than becoming a effector of our reality and bringing my own energy. You know, there's so much in the modern age about information, and that's partly why I can't actually scroll down on Facebook a lot of the time at the moment. I mean, I can if I want, but I don't want to, because yes, it's great, you know, you can know about this, that and the other, and this is going on and whatever, and these quotes and these sayings about life, but you know, what is actually relevant to you right now? You know, that's the key thing, and usually that's very, very simple. And when you get out into nature and you just feel the simplicity of it all, it's like, yeah, what's actually relevant to me right now? Okay, tell the person I love that I love her, or, you know, go and get a glass of water, you know, like it's really frigging simple, you know. It's like, But you can so easily get caught in.
Oh, that's brilliant, man. That's brilliant. Look, dude, it's like...
Well, isn't it? It's just like, you know,
that's great.
It is as simple as like one step at a time, you know. We don't need to... If you truly trust where you're going, you know, and that, you know, you will be guided by whatever, then you don't need to know all the answers. You don't need to be constantly searching outside of yourself. And that energy that you put into doing that, you know, so much energy is put into this constant, you know, need to find answers or be fulfilled. And like that energy is there for you to use for you, you know. The time that you spend, you know, wasting on Facebook, like, you know, trying to find some sort of connection with someone else who's on the same wavelength, it's like, you know, where is that coming from? You know, yes, it's good to reach out, but a lot of the time it's coming from the unhealthiness, you know. And I think that's the discernment. Where is this coming from? You know, all of it.
Absolutely. Social media is discomfiture. Social media is essentially, you know, an extension of, you know, the delusion itself. I think it's hilarious because, you know, people always say to me, you know, hey, you got so many posts on Facebook or, you know, on Twitter or whatever else it is, but we never see you there. And I go, well, I'm never there because I'm always posting from a third-party source, hence why I like the idea of using an app that allows me to post from a third-party source so that I don't have to interact with anybody who immediately sees me in there. And I'm already well aware that the whole transhuman AI experience is because we're allowing these multinational organizations to data mine everything that there is about us by being logged in to these particular websites all the time. But let's not get wrapped up in that delusion, shall we? Let's move past that, because I've noticed that we've had quite a few people all of a sudden join us. So look, guys, I just want to say, in a way, to reiterate what we've been going on about for the last hour and a half so far, is that we're being bombarded from every angle in the singularity of what we express in the construct of our everyday life, because we're in a very sensitive flow of energy, right? The Pisces and the full moon in Leo and all these planets that are water signs are all in Pisces, and they're stinging us with sensitivity. So I feel at this point in time, I would like to read something from a blog that we talked about last time we were on air, and that is the fallout from the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. I'm just going to read a little bit from it and see whether or not we can kind of spark a bit more conversation, Riki. So what we manifest within the deeper recesses of what our heart and our minds desire are two very different things to the way they were once perceived. So we're now X amount of days into what is known as the fallout from the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And I think we can admit that this has hit us all much harder in the emotional or the pain body than we really thought it would. Because an understanding of what this particular conjunction meant to most people was to arrive on the other side knowing that we would never really be the same again, and that we would be all open to welcoming the reflection of the new us. The reconfigurations of cellular structure and memory would seem to call for the emergence of a new identity, where once prevalent notions and delicate expressions of humanity and our understanding of its function would no longer be expressed in the same way. However, there is a heaviness accompanying these physiological shifts taking place in the human genome, and this is to be expected. A possible feeling of hopeless, listlessness, and or displacement may be present, and with this, an opportunity to consider darker aspects of our shadow self coming into play via our physical extension. The feeling of the body carrying an extra kind of weight should not necessarily be misconstrued as an illness or as something which is going to be a part of the new normal, when in fact it may be energetic in nature. A blockage or tightness, a pain or ache of exasperation, any of which could be alleviated by a simple remedial massage in order to generate movement and flow in the muscular and circulatory systems. This is something I would definitely suggest. Removing these impairments can empower one who has been forced through these cosmological lenses, resulting in physical discomforts, to have the courage to look into the mirror, acknowledge any unhealthy dependencies and distortions, and then move forward into these more immersive new experience, as indeed we are being forced to do right now. Now, this is part and parcel of what was foretold back in 2012, when elemental shifting of photon energies and light body infusions first began in earnest. Now, as we absorb more of these shifts in energetic deployment, we activate more highly energized light bodies and absorb more illuminated forms of subtle electrical charge. The need to let go and release elements of our past vestiges of distorted thinking emerging from our dependencies or our outdated belief structures, archetypes, and habitual behavioral patterns becomes much clearer and so much easier to accomplish. Certainly, we can acknowledge the lessons learned and have been now re-scripted over ages and ages of cyclical experience. Now, I think it sums it up really well, that what we once perceived to be a certain truth to us in the way that we were told or conditioned to live our lives holds no weight any longer. There is no further need to follow the same habituated pattern. And that is the journey into a heightened and or more sensitive state of liberation. And liberation removes us from being affected by our planar reality to becoming the effector of our new destiny. What do you think, Riki?
That's it. That's enough. You've said it.
Okay. Well, I think I have, actually. I really do. I really think I have. And, you know, for a lot of people, it's probably like, what? It's gobbledygook. How do I make head or tail of that? What the hell is this dude smoking? But the truth be told, it's not that difficult to understand, is it?
No, I think I should just pack up and walk away. No, I mean, you know, like, no.
I mean, look, this is, okay, so for those that are still with us, you know, I want to say this. We would prefer to deal in the deeper recesses of what the subconscious triggers are creating in our lives now than the warm and the fluffy and the spiritually aligned and all that kind of, you know, garbled guff that everybody's talking about. I'm ascending. I feel it all breaking away. And I'm in the flow of the divine ease and grace, and the challenges fall away. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Life is always going to be a challenge. Life is always going to be shockingly surprising. That's what makes the linear Earth experience, the Gaia classroom, such an incredible place to be.
Cool. I got shivers when you said that. And I was thinking in my head, that it's beautiful because all of these experiences, what happens is really you become more able to manage life, and isn't that funny in a way, because from an outside perspective, spirituality has kind of been knocked on its head a lot by people thinking, well, it's all fluffy like that, and that does make sense, but ultimately what it really is about becoming better at dealing with life.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That's great.
Really, let's face it, it's about mastering life, having mastery over life, so that you can take control of your destiny and experience all you need to experience. But in that realization that everything is medicine, I'm not saying I'm sat here welcoming all these bad experiences that are going to come, but I'm not saying that they will, by the way, but I'm certainly more open to being all right with these experiences and not avoiding these experiences and not trying to, for instance, prolong life like a scientist who's out of his power, who's
Yes.
got an obsession about prolonging life, because the miracle of life is all these experiences. And I'm grateful. Thank you for the difficult experiences. Thank you. That's a really beautiful place to be in. And I know some of us will be feeling that at some point, we'll be feeling very grateful for the hard stuff because we see its place now, everything has its place. So, learning to work with life and work with reality and really face things head on, can only make you strong.
Absolutely. Resilience is a really, really magic word for 2020. Tenacity, perseverance, resilience. These are what creates the metal, right? That's the metal, the Jack Black, tried to kill the metal. It's like, Jack Black would be sitting there going, right on, Mike, that's exactly it, man. It's all about building the metal. The metal is what we're going to use as our energy warrior armor to face the challenges, right? These challenges, they're here. They're here in the now. They're fucking hard, man. People are not going to make it. I know that I sound kind of almost doomsday-ish, almost apocalyptic, as Corey would say, but fuck it, at the end of the day, people aren't going to make it.
Well, it's the truth, because there's a lot of people committing suicide, and I think that's good. It's a healthy balance, being able to look at things that are difficult without getting wrapped up in them and making a big thing about it, but it's healthy being able to look at both sides of things, and that is a mature way of experiencing life, and it's only going to lead you to good things, but like the denial, the wanting to, and I'm not putting people down for wanting to drink, alcohol's obviously one of the biggies, to cop out, to get out, as we know, only leads to bigger and bigger issues, but we have the choice whether we're copping out or not every single day. And being a warrior in your strength is about, realizing it's through your actions every single day that you choose to cop out or not,
Yeah. Brilliant. Because again, when you think about it, it's so easy to do that.
Yeah.
And you open yourself to really the darker shadow aspects of, other realms and other densities and dimensions when you allow your addictions to, open yourself up to receiving. You can become a transmitter, a receiver from, negative transmissions from other dimensions, other parallel realities, man. When you're in that state of you're not liberated, you've got no control, and you're really, really sort of stuck in a downward spiral more and more.
That's right. It spirals out for people, and then they end up connecting to the lower astral and all that. And the way out of that really is to feed your soul. The more you feed your soul, you're protected by being the light that you are. That's the that's the funny thing, isn't it? It's the protection. So it's actually healthy to be you, you know, to be vibrant and be you is actually healthy, you know.
Absolutely. And believe me, you know, even though a lot of us have been like, you know, Spirit has said to many of us, you are going through this deep integration at the moment. You will lead the charge for many because of the higher frequency that you selflessly present in your music. That is a language, that is a new form of meta expression. I'm going to make sure that you're not going to be distracted by me bringing, you know, a female counterpart into your world right now. You don't need that distraction. You don't need that added kind of emotional baggage and or stress. But there will come a time when we will know that we will experience the perfect higher octave that is our mirror self. You know, what they call the dweller on the threshold can be embodied in either another male or another female, you know, because we're expressing both attributes in any given one moment. Sometimes we're very female and sometimes we're very male. So we know what it means to understand the dichotomy of the paradox that exists. However, it's still part of the delusion.
But you know, what you were just saying has really brought up something, which is everything has its place, you know, like that everything is had medicine, you know, but there's a time and a place for all things. And I'm always getting the message that our ancestors, you know, I can sense, as I say it, they're saying to us that, you know, don't keep polarizing things as good, bad, blah, 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 because it's like, what was good, you know, what was bad today may be good tomorrow.
Good point.
So, and that's the point, you know inside you that it's not right for you to connect with the women at the moment because that's a distraction. So, and that's what this is all about, really. It's about realizing what you need at any time or not, you know. And like I was going to say about, you know, the food thing and what I've been doing with that, you know, because it can be seen as like another form of mantra in a way, you know, like, oh, you know, because you think you've got to get this every day, you know, you've got to have this good stuff every day, you know. And it needs to not come from that place, but rather from a dynamic place of where you're listening to yourself every day.
Yep.
And you are open to possibilities. You are open and you're saying, okay, what does today present, you know? And that's the way I'm playing the game, you know. It's like each day I'm open to possibilities. And I think that in regard to all things like depression, stagnation and all that, you know, all those things come in because many of us are leading a life which is too narrow band, you know.
Brilliant.
In nature, we'd experience many different things could happen, you know. One day we could be feeling scared that there's a wild animal or something. The next day we could be chasing a wild animal. You know, you get to experience all angles of a shifting and dynamic reality, you know. And that's where, you know, life really gets you, because it's like, oh, you know, like I thought this worked, but this doesn't work anymore. This has served its course. This has served its time, and it's time to move on. So, and so many don't know when that time is, you know. Right. So stay with, like you say, the relationship that's not healthy, or, you know, the dependency that's not healthy, and that becomes the delusion. But underneath, you can always see that the person's not happy, you know, because of, you know, not being liberated and being in bondage to those things.
Well, you become subservient, right? That's the bottom line, is that you become subservient to your own demise. You're the one that continues to channel and you know, drive your downward spiral. That's what 2020 is trying to teach us. That it isn't the same you, even though you can't really feel the new you, but it's not the same you. You can't say that you're the same person now. You can't. It's not possible. There's been far too much that's been, like, look at how much stuff has been exposed. right?
True, yeah.
We've had the Vatican exposed, right? We've had pedophile rings exposed. We've had child slavery. Someone turned around to me the other day and said, do you know why Prince Harry and Meghan left the royal family? And I go, well, I'm assuming that they thought that, you know, she's a pelican and they don't want to be around her anymore, you know, because she is a pelican. You know, and he said, no, because Prince William was involved in a sex trafficking ring, and they found out about it. And I'm thinking, what? They're using the royal family to mask a Khazarian or a Red Circle type of, you know, Illuminati type agenda of manipulating young women, and, you know, come on. This is the illumination that's taking place. You see,
the bigger picture is being seen, and when I was saying about that thing with the ancestors, you know, that's what they're trying to say. Like, when we understand what's going on, humans come to a state of peace between each other, and we understand, you know. But when we don't understand what's going on, you know, the media create drama around stuff. We all get all het up about what's going on, and it becomes not what it truly is. You know what I mean? And so much of that's been going on. But I just really felt I needed to say that, because I do feel that when it's about understanding, you know, when a place of understanding has come, the struggles go. You know, it's like the same with when you've got miscommunication between two people and they don't actually know what each other are on about. You know, they're not actually listening. You know, not truly got where the person's coming from. So, you know, I really feel that they want to say that it is about this bigger picture, and when humanity does see it, we'll just, you know, I'm not saying we'll be in this blissed out bubble of state of light, because that's the delusion again, you know.
Absolutely.
we won't, but things will be, you know, what's the word? You know, life will be shifting and changing more. There won't be so much stagnant energy and so much, you know, rigid dogma and all that, you know. I didn't mean to digress too much off the... No,
that's good, because, you know, that's what we need to do. Is what you're doing is you're reiterating really what the podcast, what the discussion has been about, and that, you know, there's just delusion and more delusion and more delusion until you recognize that, A, I'm not attaching to it, therefore I'm not being affected by it. Because, you know, you keep drawing it back to things like, you know, the ancient ancestors. I went through that a lot as well. Look, we'll try and get Elliot. Elliot's really trying to call. Come on, Elliot. Talk to us, man.
Hi.
Hey, brother.
Hi.
Are you wearing a headset?
Yeah.
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 No one can hear you, man. Yeah, I'm afraid it doesn't work, man. It's just one.
I think it's the software.
Look, it's software. It's Podbean, basically, because you see. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute, and I'm just going to disconnect this. So basically, look where we are now, right? Everything is being attached to as an extension of the AI represented in our phone. Our AI has become part and parcel of our own construct. Oh, hang on. Elliot's got a headset now. All right, let's try and do it this time. Hang on a minute, Elliot. Make sure that this time, just hold on, man. Let's see if we can make sure this time it actually connects. Just hold on, bro. I'm getting everything connected. All right, hold on. Let's see what happens now. Okay. All right, I'm connecting you now.
Hi.
Elliot, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Elliot.
Hello?
Can you hear us, bro?
Yeah.
Just say if you can hear me. I can't hear you, if that makes any sense.
Can you hear me?
It doesn't matter. Unfortunately, it's just not meant to be, so can't really do much about it. Do you want to call WhatsApp, mate? You can call my WhatsApp. Shall we see if we can get Elliot online, Riki?
Yeah, give him that.
All right, call this number, mate. Hold on. +61 434 15545. WhatsApp. You'll come through the speakers that way. So we'll see if Elliot calls. I've got him hooked into my secondary speaker system. All right, let's see what happens. But in the meantime, as we were just speaking a moment ago, just reiterating the fact that we're recognizing that the connection to what it is that we believe is affecting us is part and parcel of the delusion. Right?
Yeah, we give things reality. We make things real, really, don't we, by what they mean to us, really. You know, so that's what's quite interesting, actually, because, you know, an object can kind of be neutral as it is, or an experience can be neutral, but if we're coloured by our life experience, we turn that into something different than it is, you know. And I think it's realising what is coming from a true place when we experience something, and what's coming from that sort of knee-jerk reaction, you know.
Absolutely. I'm just going to ask what Elliot's question is. What is your question? But anyway, we're not going to have this problem anymore, because we're going to be on a totally different platform, and you're going to be able to call in to a particular number, which no one can monitor, right? That's the other thing. Everything we're doing is being monitored by these arseholes. And they are. I hope they're listening, because you're a bunch of arseholes. Seriously, you're not worth the money that we spend with you. And whatnot. But I don't want to get off point too much. I want to stay onto it. So, Riki, let me ask you a very important question. Do you firmly believe that, as the podcast states in its descriptor, that where is the relief point to release the tension that is stifling our flow of energy, right? That's stifling our flow of energy that nurtures and nourishes our soul where we need it most. What is your go-to place? What is your go-to thing when you need to release something that's kind of, you know, welled up inside you and could very, very well, you know, explode in a negatively emotionally charged manner?
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose there's things you can do in the external world to kind of make yourself feel better, you know, go for a walk in nature, do some deep breathing, things like that, you know. But I think that ultimately having a strong sense of self first, and I don't mean self necessarily in an ego way, but just a strong sense that you're more than this, you're more than what you're experiencing, whether you feel like someone's throwing something at you, or, you know, and in that realization, well, it sounds easy, doesn't it, from where I'm saying it, but you realize that this is just a small thing, you know, this bit of pain or this bit of anger or a bit of whatever, you know. But I certainly don't feel like it's good to, you know, pretend it's not there, because that doesn't work either, you know. And I think there's all these different ways of avoiding what is, you know.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I'm learning to be able to be with what is more, and I'm finding that in general, you know, my experience of daily life is sort of like joy, and, you know, not always joy, but a general good feeling, if you know what I mean, especially now. So it's about you know, when those lows come and that, and yeah, like you say, when you're triggered and that, you know, to realize this too shall pass, you know. But I don't think that many people that we meet in our daily lives really are able to receive or help us with triggers, you know, help us, you know. So, and humanity is not very good at helping itself with triggers in general, you know. But that's our thing, I suppose. That's our thing to learn how to work with these things now.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think just cut yourself some slack. Cut yourself some slack. Don't be so wrapped up in everything that you, as I said earlier, and that was a great story, you know, that guy, that friend of mine just, you know, confronted his boss and said, I'm sorry, man, I just didn't want to. I made a choice not to come in and be part of the construct anymore. That's a choice. Make the choice. If you're not happy with
sometimes,
go on.
Yeah, sometimes you need to just walk away, you know, and it's like, as long as it's not you're not running away, you know, and you realize that, you know, you're walking away because something isn't healthy, you know, and not everyone's ready to hear you, you know, not everyone's ready to, so you have to walk away, because in any interaction, a lot of the time when there's blocks, both people need to be willing to do the work, you know. But a lot of the time it either seems the other person doesn't, or, you know, but sometimes they do, and that's when relationships work, you know, when you can really, or friendships, when you can really be real and say, you know, the truth of what's going on. Because we know, we've seen it in our lives, you know, resentment built up over years, and then suddenly it all comes out years later, you know. But you can't live with tension inside like that, you know. And I do see a lot of humans living with that tension inside, where they've either got the guilt of something that they've done, or the pressure of something that they should do, or it's a horrible weight to carry around with you, you know. So I think I feel like I'd encourage everyone to just really try and find someone to speak up to, or speak to yourself, I don't know, whatever, but get the stuff out, you know. Be an externalizer, you know, externalize what's going on in your world, as long as it's not causing people too much grief, whether that's like music or art, or, you know, whatever it is you need to do. Keep the energy moving, you know, keep things moving, because when your energy stagnates, that's when emotions and triggers become difficult. Because, you know, if you're already not happy, if you're already depressed, you know, extra layers of unhappiness on top of that just, you know, become a pain in the ass, really. And the more you're in your flow, the more you're doing what really serves you, you're just not bothered about what someone said or didn't say, you know. And when that anger comes, well, the thing is, a lot of the time it doesn't come up so strong. The anger comes up strong when you feel like, you know, something's threatened your sense of self. Sometimes the anger is a good thing, you know what I mean? It's saying to you, look, something's not right here. You know, this experience with this person, they're invading my space. It's not healthy. I need to walk away, you know. So, you know, I just feel that getting in your true flow,
yeah,
and doing what you're here to do.
I really like that, Riki. I really do.
It's not avoiding stuff by doing that, you know, because it's not like you're saying, oh, I don't accept any anger, I don't accept anything negative, man, you know, it's I'm just a bubble of bliss. It's not doing that. It's saying that I'll follow my bliss, and in doing so, difficulties and struggles will become more my friend, because I have some constitution, I have a built up reserve of goodness and sense of strong being of who I am, that's you know, that's stronger than this drama, than this madness going on around.
While you're on that,
you see the bigger picture, you know. Yeah, go on.
While you're on that, just so I don't lose my train of thought, that's the resilience that we recognize in the energy warrior that we all are, right? We are the energy warriors that are aligned and fearless, that express a resilience that demonstrates to other people that, look, I've managed to face the same challenges as you and be overwhelmed by the same things that overwhelm you. But look at where I've ended up, because I've maintained a certain level of resilience, but through a lens of compassionate strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think you're getting to when you say what you're saying there, is that you build up a certain amount of, immunity by going through and embracing the experiences, however good, bad, or indifferent they are, which then helps you to, to really deal with what's going on more than ever.
And other people around you. And that's, with my last relationship, 12 years of sort of in and out dealing with trauma and that. But the great thing with it was that I became more, accepting of the situations going on around me. It's like, because you're not constantly, because the thing is, someone doesn't have to say something to you to be triggered. You can, I could go to a party and be like, oh, that couple look great there, and be feeling like, oh, I wish whatever it is, like, we're being triggered all the time, and it's not necessarily in your face. It's like, stuff going on in the background, because we're either not happy with our life or not in our flow, and all that. So I've lost what you were saying now, but so it all makes sense. The more happy you are with yourself, the better all of it is, really.
Absolutely. And I think that, as we get ready to wrap this up now, I'm just going to play an excerpt from this audio. I've decided, I've been sitting here, we've been going through the processes, but I'm going to play a little bit of this audio, and then I'm going to play Mark's response. It's only 5 minutes, right? So it's not a long thing. And I think it's just good to get it into our live stream, because if we're going to share this as our weekly podcast for this week, I think there are people who are ready to hear it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to do that right now. Okay.
Cool.
So I'm just going to go here, and I'm just going to hit the stop button on that, and I'm just going to play this from here.
I like that. Too much 7D and not enough 3D, or too much 3D and not enough 7D. It's all a crock of shit anyway. Because to be really honest, we're all calibrating our belief structures around it, and we're saying, as long as we constantly are in search of the bliss and we find ourselves in a blissful state, then really, what else do we need? It's really about just recognizing our multidimensionality. Once you know you're multidimensional, not much can really affect you, not much can really infect you, and then you become the effector. I affect everything that I put my hand to, because I predetermine from what gives me bliss and joy what it is that I want out of the situation. If I don't want to attach or connect with somebody, because I know that if I do, I'm opening myself to being exposed to third-party drama, that's a choice that I've made to affect my bliss. So if we look at everything from the perspective of, you're either allowing yourself, you're either allowing yourself to be affected by every given circumstance that you are confronted with or exposed to, or you simply recognize it for what it is, and then you become the effector. How do I use what it is that I'm no longer attaching to empower me as the effector? Well, it's you lead by example. This is something that I've been discussing with a number of people, is that if you get out there and you don't necessarily conform to everybody's, particular behavior, and you say, look, I'm sorry, that's not for me. I like doing this. This is what brings me joy. This is what blisses me out. And you're welcome to join me. And you leave it at that. You don't preach why. You don't give any kind of, detailed third-party information as to why you do what you do. You just do it because you know that it lifts your heart. And the more that it lifts your heart, the more you are expressing yourself from the heart. See, a lot of people refuse to acknowledge that a lot of the time they are in the heart. It's just they don't feel it because they've been so dumbed down to what feeling is, what is feeling, rather than, you know, a deluded form of expression. Even language is a deluded form of expression. So I put it down to the most simple of all analogies, and that is there is no 3D, there's no 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D. You're always either in a blissed out state or you're not. And you're not supposed to be all the time, because you have to face the challenges that Mother Gaia puts in front of you. Otherwise, you'll never learn. You'll never learn practical lessons if you're not exposed to practical circumstances. And a lot of people live too much in their head, live too much in their scripture, live too much in their chanting, in their subservient, slave-like spiritual perspective. There's no bliss in that. It's just delusion of joy, delusion of happiness. But there's nothing visceral or real about it, because they're not really experiencing it. They're just attending to, if you like, what's showing up. And what's showing up is that if I don't pray and I don't do this and I don't do that. I used to believe that. I used to believe if I didn't chant, or if I didn't do my invocation, or if I didn't do my meditations, if I didn't call in the higher realms, then I was going to be affected by having a crappy day. Well, I'm sorry, but that's also delusional. My favourite word in the English language is delusional.
I'll leave it at that. But have a listen to what Marky had to say when he heard that today.
Hey, Mike. Just use that one and just cut off the end there. See, I got a phone call. That's my.
Hang on.
Hey, Mike. I just finished listening to your audio message, and it's a very accurate, very close to the bullseye. Your concepts you presented to cover this multitude of topics that all are different pieces of the puzzle, the jigsaw puzzle that paints the reality behind the reality. So understanding that, the more you put these pieces together, the more trees you can rise above to see the forest behind. The concepts that assist that and assist other self. See, we have the main part of the other goals is that all, call them fractals or whatever, all of us, all the cells of the consciousness are ushered to move forward together. So you can't abandon everybody and move forward. We all have to move forward together. See, we're operating in the linear time frames. Anu has been programming the timeline. We are interacting and following his instructions to paint the forest behind the tree. Paint the tree powerfully so we can't see past it. We do it to ourselves under their instruction as we've been deceived about what we are. We're not the body. That isn't us. The body as you've basically pretty much exactly explained in a lot of generalizations and understanding of the reality behind reality, the true reality. Okay, now there's a lot more to it. So there's some edges that need pulled off of your concepts, that need toned down. The main thing of understanding to add to all of this that has never been spoken is the ideal. Once you have addressed your own shortcomings, your own delusions, your own offenses, your own everything, once you get into the understanding and make the changes that turn your negative behavior into positive behavior, then the understanding of being a harmless being when contemplating interaction with the other fractals, let's call them that, I guess, because a negative interaction, while in your discussions you pointed at certain things about their not really being real and such, but you have to remember there is databases in the growth of our infinite nature. The knowledge, the data is collected. So the interaction amongst ourselves is contributing to the database, the do's, don'ts, and so forth of properness of our nature that we decide is the proper aspects of our nature that we want to blossom and support those. And remove, unless it's being utilized for certain purposes, and remove the negative interactions, the negative implications to our actions and so forth, how we affect others. That's what.
So there you go. I think that's really powerful stuff. Because what Mark is really referring to there more than anything is he's actually talking about the fact that reiterating the fact that it's our own connection and our own expression of the proper behaviors, of being a non-reactionary frequency, of not feeling attached to anything in any specific manner, of not being affected by external forces or external influences, that then allows us to influence the energy flow of other people. What do you think, Riki?
I just like what he was saying there. Is the energy behind what he's saying is coming through clear. Well, I think it's reiterating everything we've been saying, really, all of it, you know. It started getting really cold out here, actually, so I'll probably have to end in a minute, but I've been outside this whole podcast, been quite interesting, you know, but I came out because it's a better place to be, you know, but it started getting really
yeah, fair enough. What time is it there? Is it already getting late in the afternoon? Because it's 4:30 in the morning here.
Oh, yeah, 5:30.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Well, look, I think what we've done is we've covered a lot of the spectrum, the broader spectrum tonight and this morning, and we appreciate everybody that's tuned in. We've had a nice large community tuning in, which has been great. We appreciate that. And as I said at the very beginning, once again, those that are interested in a copy of the full audio stream, just share your email address. We'll leave the chat window open for another 5 minutes while anybody wants to share their email address, and then we're more than happy to send you a low-res MP3 via WeTransfer. But in closing remarks, just remember that most of what it is that you believe in your perceived reality, your perceived plane of reality that you think or you perceive is taking place outside of yourself. And the more you recognize that, and the more you acknowledge that, the more you will resolve your attachment to any of it, and you will begin to not only see and experience, but really feel what it's like to have the liberated sense of self. And that will circumvent the delusion. Liberation will circumvent the delusion that you find yourself in every day. Riki, any closing remarks?
I do think it's possible to be extremely clear compared to what you have been or humanity has been. I do think, there's always going to be a certain level of delusion in life and around us. And, we're not in this totally liberated state of, human experience yet. But it's an exciting thing, I'll say that, because what I do know is that in being real, in being able to see clearly and being willing to see clearly, so much opportunity opens up to you, and there's so much to explore that hasn't been explored. And I think when we can get our head out the sand, and drop the attachments, drop the addictions, and, experience what's beyond, what fully serves our soul, does open us up into so many experiences and so much growth for the people that we are, so it's there's a way out of the illusions and the delusions to a degree, I feel, but this definitely feels pretty bloody real here at the moment. How cold it's gone, it's hilarious. It's like, wow, that's real in my face,
Fair enough.
I like that.
Well, listen, mate, you just get yourself home, get yourself into a warm space. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Sending you much, much love from the hearts to your hearts, and we'll reconvene and connect with everybody again. Probably one more on Podbean next Saturday, and then after that, I think we can safely move to the Magazine radio broadcast platform. Okay. So thanks again to everybody. Much love, and take care of yourselves.
Cheers.